It's with Amber. It's Radio Free Canada. We are so happy to be here because out of the blue, the Kelowna Peace Group puts together this rally. And then all of a sudden these people show up. So Amber's here with the official interview. So how did it start? What happened?
Well, it started with what the international community is saying no to war.
Okay.
And they've been saying no to many wars, but this is pushing it way too far. This could be the end. So why even think about it? Never mind, start it. I mean,
Right.
It's so illegal.
Good evening.
Let me ask you, there have been many reports that some of the crucial intelligence on the chemical attack was gathered by Israeli intelligence. They say that they've monitored conversations between Syrian army commanders talking about moving chemical weapons supplies. What can you tell me about that?
I'm sure the Israeli input was very significant. I'm saying that the American intelligence community is very, very careful after Iraq 2003. And I know personally most of them. I know personally General Klepper, who is the DNI. And once again, when I hear the determination of Secretary Kerry, I know that the intelligence is very solid.
Secretary of State John Kerry said Monday that it was undeniable a chemical weapons attack had occurred and that it was carried out by the Syrian military. U.S. intelligence officials are not so certain that the suspected chemical attack was carried out on Assad's orders or even completely sure it was carried out by government forces. Oops. That's U.S. intelligence officials. We're not at all sure. It's embarrassing to say, to indicate like we're gonna go and then to put the brakes on it. You know what's more embarrassing? If we go and it turns out it wasn't the Assad regime that used chemical weapons. And by the way, if the rebels used the chemical weapons, would we then have to turn around and bomb them?
So that's a really good question.
Yeah, who should you bomb if the rebels use the chemical weapons?
Yeah, it turns out the rebels were the guys that were doing things wrong. I don't know, man. I think we got to do more fact-checking here.
I think so.
I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robin Nisbet.
And we're the guys who check the facts. So this is Video Radio, our second part, as we take a look at Syria, the nightmare that's including our best friends, Israel.
And of course, the rising tensions in the area. I hope nobody does anything stupid.
Israel has tested a missile defense system in the Mediterranean, causing a brief spike in tension in a region currently seeing a buildup of military force. The launch was detected by Russia's radars and comes as the U.S. positions itself for an expected attack on Syria. RT's Igor Piskunov joins me now live with the details. Hi there, Igor. So please tell us more about this test.
At first, no one but Russia could officially confirm that these launches did in fact take place, including Israel and the U.S. But now we've heard from the Israeli Defense Ministry, which explained that in fact it seems that the incident was part of a joint drill between Israel and the U.S. This is raising a lot of questions around how good is the timing of holding such drills in the region, which is already filled with all these tensions connected with the situation around Syria. What happened today really illustrates and really adds even more to the uncertainty and tensions around what will happen next in the whole region.
So let's just follow the logical crumb trail down the path towards war. We're going to have a missile launch test during a crisis.
Do you think maybe Israel may have been trying to provoke a reaction from Syria?
It's kind of funny because the missile was going straight for that area.
Yeah.
Just so happens.
You know, what if they retaliated and shot at an American ship?
And it's kind of like, that would provoke war.
And of course, the U.S. is not the only power in the region.
So while we've got 3 and 4 and 5 bullies all lined up to duke it out in the Middle East, we're standing here in Canada going, thank goodness we have the internet. You're tuned into Video Radio. This is Radio Free Canada's second part of the look at Syria. What do we got?
Well, we got war games going on in more than one way.
Okay, so we hope these guys don't do something stupid. Check our facts and check this out.
We have news. It's tentative news until it's confirmed, but the news is alarming. This is a very major exercise, combined air, land, and sea, involving Russia, Black Sea Fleet elements, Air Assault Division, Spetsnaz troops, and Iran, and Syria, and to be joined by China, warships from China. That also includes the very likely scenario where Iran and China have already received permission to pass warships through the Suez Canal. To my knowledge, this is alarming for the whole region. The backstory, Larry, quickly. Back in the UN Security Council resolution against Libya, Russia helped broker that deal, and Gaddafi was to accept internal exile, I am told. Russia believes that it was betrayed by the Secretary of State, by the UN ambassador, and by the Obama administration, and Gaddafi's death told Russia not to trust the U.S. Therefore, there will be no climbing down on Syria. Russia intends to back the Assad regime all the way. Mr. Putin is now in charge. Mr. Medvedev, the former president, backstory again, he was humiliated when Russia was betrayed in Libya. He has not regained his status since then. Mr. Putin will not make that mistake. Russia is an energy superpower. They're also deploying major combat elements, Larry. I'm told Air Assault Division, Combined Arms Division, the Marines from the Black Sea Fleet are on their way to Syria right now. This is boots on the ground. There'll be perhaps 400 aircraft involved. You see, they're making it very clear there will be no military option for the United States. So there is no option for the U.S. at all. This is a severe setback for the Obama administration. When and if this military exercise takes place, it is clearly in the face of the Obama administration's negotiations with Iran. Putin has played a very strong card.
All right. So bankers on both sides are financing awesome amounts of hardware in the area.
And the stupid thing is, this isn't about a chemical attack.
Okay.
You know, it's not.
No.
It's about pipelines and gas and all kinds of other things.
Yeah. Okay. So we end up with this pipelines and gas thing. The gas prices going up. We've already seen that.
However, you know, I mean, Syria is a client state of Russia.
Yes.
And they are receiving lots of arms through legal contracts.
Yes. Yeah.
The thing is, no one talks about how advanced the Russian weapon systems are.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, this gets us right into Western media does not cover the fact that the United States could get its butt kicked. Okay, they never talk about that.
No, you know, just if they spend the most money doesn't mean they get the best product.
So check this out.
There are reports this morning that Russia has delivered advanced anti-ship missiles to Syria. They're reportedly a newer version of missiles that Russia has been supplying President Bashar al-Assad's regime for years, but with better radar systems. Now, they've been described as ship killers, and they raise Syria's capability to hit vessels off its coast in the event of a blockade or to attack ships used to support a no-fly zone. Now, that's specifically referring to the anti-ship missiles. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said today that Russians have made no secret of the fact they continue to supply weapons to Syria under contract and in accordance with international law. Now, this was a contract that was signed back in 2007. Raising the stakes even more, Russia has increased the number of warships in that region that patrol its own naval base in Syria. Now, this comes at a time when Secretary of State John Kerry has been working with Russian officials to assemble an international conference on Syria. Today, the UN Secretary General and the Russian Foreign Minister agreed that that should be held as soon as possible, but as yet, no date has been set.
So they never put the two and two together where they say a bank supplied the money that bought the weapons.
And how much does a cruise missile cost anyway?
See, but you could be feeding people. Remember, there's 2 million refugees in Syria. Okay,
yeah,
1.5 million of those are from Iraq. Okay, that the Americans deployed.
Actually, 2 million people have left Syria.
Okay, so you get me. But these bankers, they'll back them up with millions of dollars worth of weapons to kill people, but not stuff to feed people.
I mean, you're going to bomb people to save them? How does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, we're going to kill people. That's like the beatings will continue until morale improves.
That's right.
Now, the UK, right in the middle.
Good thing they're not going, because it could be embarrassing.
The Prime Minister himself has become salesman-in-chief for Britain's arms industry, pushing for deals not only in Gulf states such as Oman, but even in countries where alleged human rights abuses make them highly controversial, such as here in Saudi Arabia. Now MPs have fired a warning shot across the government's bows, questioning the checks made on more than 3,000 export licences worth more than £12 billion to 27 countries, which are on the Foreign Office's own list of human rights concerns. The biggest chunk of the £12 billion comes from Israel, accounting for almost £8 billion. The Saudis are next with close to £1.9 billion. China is third with almost £1.5 billion. But the UK also has licences to sell arms to Iran, Egypt and Syria. The Committees on Arms Export Controls say supplies of industrial chemicals, which could be used to make chemical weapons, were sent to Syria in the last couple of years. There's no way of knowing what they were used for in the end, but the committees say the fact the UK sells military hardware to countries its own Foreign Office deems to have poor human rights records indicates an inherent conflict in the government's own policies. The arms business is unique. It allows nations to buy diplomatic and political clout by selling weapons and technology, whilst at the same time protecting hundreds of thousands of jobs back home. The problem, it seems from this latest report, is making sure you know who gets their hands on that technology.
Oh my goodness. Like, seriously?
That's a little embarrassing.
Selling to China, selling to... I mean, come on. You sell them to all the guys that want to shoot back at you, and then you're going to say, I'm going to go to war with you?
Well, you know, who actually makes the money?
Well, the banks make the money in the end, right? Okay, you got to remember that a bank backed up every weapon that there was out there, killing children.
And meanwhile, there is a very important economic forum occurring right now at this very moment.
It just so happens that Harper and Baird are embarrassing us on the international scale again, but despite what they want this G20 summit to be about,
it's about Syria. And I think Mr. Cerrito, or Barry as we like to call him, is experiencing a chilly reception.
Oh, do tell!
Beneath the grandeur of Peter the Great's Constantine Palace, an enduring symbol of Russia's imperial past, Vladimir Putin greeted his guests. The leaders of the G20 gathering for an economic summit almost totally eclipsed by the Syrian crisis. The Russian leader and the American president face to face, but poles apart. There will be no formal bilateral talks on Syria between these two leaders. We've nothing to talk about, tweeted a senior Russian parliamentarian. But on the sidelines of this 36-hour summit, there will be dialogue between the world leaders, with President Obama seeking support for a strike against Syria, with others like the French President François Hollande planning to present his country's evidence of chemical attacks against the rebels. This is, of course, an economic summit, so Syria is not even on the agenda here at St. Petersburg. But, of course, it will be the subject that will dominate this gathering. President Putin scheduled his first bilateral meeting with the Chinese president. China and Russia, both members of the UN Security Council, have been unrelenting in the backing of President Assad's government. China's support here not surprising. The Russian leader's opening address at the summit focused on challenges to the world economy. It looks like an impossible task facing delegates at this summit here in St. Petersburg. Leaders have just a day and a half to try and find a consensus and a way forward that's proved so elusive in more than 2 years of fighting in Syria. Peter Sharp, Al Jazeera in St. Petersburg.
Yes, indeed. The irony continues, and, you know, they're trying to do an economic thing.
And they are going to be talking about the dollarification of the world and how the world wants to step away from that.
Yeah.
And I think the U.S. is saying the message, if you don't continue to use the petrodollar, we're going to beat you up.
That's right, because that's exactly what they're doing. Basically, the Fed is backed up by the Pentagon. Please do your research on the way the Fed makes money up out of nowhere. It's called fractional reserve lending. I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
Remember, we do have solutions, too. We don't just sit here and mock abjectly the fools who are blowing children up. We've got the Municipal Sustainability Project that's underway right now in Kelowna, British Columbia. We urge you to get informed.
Absolutely, because we got to stop this madness.
And we got to start spending money on kids instead of killing. I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
You're tuned in to Radio Free Canada.